In this video, I'll show you how to get legendary potential items and how to upgrade them from level 0 all the way to level 3. You're aiming to find legendary items with a potential level of 1, 2, or ideally 3. Especially level 3, that's already deep into endgame content. These items can be found, though the chances are extremely low, but don't worry. In this guide, I'll explain how you can specifically target and obtain legendary potential 3 items, or more precisely, how you can craft them using a specific method. While it's not direct crafting, with the right strategy you can effectively farm for them. First of all, you need to determine what item are you looking for and where can you find it. You'll need to take drop chances into account, of course. And with a bit of luck, you might get what you want. However, if you simply go in blindly fighting bosses and hoping that the item you want will drop, well, given how low the odds are, you'll likely end up disappointed. That makes things a bit difficult, especially if the item has no potential at all. Getting an item with even 1 level of potential is already a challenge, but if you're aiming for potential 2 or even 3, simply farming the same boss over and over won't realistically work. And so here's how to begin. Head over to lastepochtools.com. On this site, you can look up every item in the game and see where it drops or how to obtain it. This is crucial because you need to go straight to the source. If you know what item you're after, you'll want to target the specific enemies or locations that drop it. Why? Because you'll need many of these items. It might not be too hard to get the item once, but we're not talking about just getting any version. You're aiming for one with legendary potential, ideally 2 or even 3. So step 1, head over to lastepochtools.com, search for the item you want, and note where it drops. Once you've identified the unique you need, the site will also show the drop chances, including the probability of it dropping with potential 1, 2, 3, or even 4. Keep in mind, the rarer the item, the lower the chance it drops with high potential. On the other hand, more common uniques can sometimes drop with potential 3 or even 4. That's why it's important to remember, for less rare unique items, the chance of getting them with high potential is significantly better. However, if you're working on a late game build, chances are you'll need rarer uniques, and those are much harder to find with high legendary potential. Let's say you're going after Aberoth's gear, specifically his body armor or his two-handed axe. The axe is called World Splitter, and the armor is the Null Portent body armor. Both drop from Aberoth if you need these items for your build. Your goal is to farm Aberoth repeatedly until you get these drops, but when you check the odds of these items having legendary potential, it's very low. Unless you get extremely lucky, it's unlikely you'll get anything above potential 1. That's also why these versions with higher potential are so expensive on the marketplace. Anything above potential 1 is rare and hard to get. So what should you do? Pick up every version of the item, even if it has 0 potential. If you're farming Aberoth's armor, grab it every time it drops. Whether or not it has potential doesn't matter at first, just collect them. Here's why. With the new patch, version 1.2, there are now multiple ways to upgrade these items. You no longer have to pray for a perfect drop. You can work toward upgrading what you already have. Even in patch 1.1, you had a powerful tool, Nemesis Encounters. The Nemesis system allows you to take an item, even one with 0 legendary potential, and put it into the encounter. After completing the encounter 3 times, the item drops again and its stats, including legendary potential, are re-rolled. Either your item gets legendary potential or it gets 1 or 2 random affixes added instead. It's essentially a gamble. The best case scenario, and what we're hoping for, is that the Nemesis system upgrades your unique item into a unique with legendary potential, allowing you to craft it into a proper legendary item later. The chances, they're decent. Let's take Aberoth's armor as an example again. If you put 3 of those armors into Nemesis Encounters, typically, about 1 of them might come back with legendary potential, most often with potential 1. Of course, it's random and results vary, but you might expect 1 in 3 or 4 attempts to succeed. Sometimes you might even get potential 2 if you're really lucky. What the Nemesis Encounter essentially offers is a second roll, another chance to get legendary potential on an item that didn't have it when it first dropped. Here's how it works. The item drops from a boss, e.g. Aberoth. It has no potential. You put it into a Nemesis Encounter, the system re-rolls the outcome. If you're lucky, the item now has legendary potential. If not, it gets some preset modifiers and becomes a legendary item, but not the kind you want, then the item is trash. Why? Because those modifiers are often tier 5 or lower, and you're aiming for tier 7 stats, which can't appear this way. Sure, sometimes you might get lucky and receive 2 tier 5 affixes that are actually useful, and in that case, great. But usually these pre-rolled legendary items aren't worth keeping and can be thrown away. So to summarize, take every unique item with 0 potential and start running them through Nemesis Encounters. Now, of course, you might run into the next issue if you just play maps and hope a Nemesis encounter shows up. You're going to be waiting a long time. And Nemesis encounters only appear once per map, which means it can take a long time if you're just waiting for them to show up randomly. Thankfully, the latest patch gives you new ways to increase your chances. In the new update, you can invest points in the Weaver Tree to increase the chance of a Nemesis encounter appearing on a map. These encounters are not guaranteed otherwise. With the Fated Nemesis node in the Woven Tree, you can boost Nemesis spawn chances by 8% per point spent, meaning with just a few points, you can reach roughly a 25% chance of getting a Nemesis encounter on each map. Even more importantly, you now have access to Woven Echo maps with Conqueror Towers. These special maps allow you to fight through multiple Nemesis encounters in a row, which drastically speeds up your farming. And so here's what you do. Collect a batch of Woven Echo Conqueror Tower maps. Prepare your stash with unique items that have zero potential. Run these maps back to back and feed each of your items into the Nemesis system as you go. For example, if you're working towards Aberoth's armor, farm Aberoth repeatedly to collect multiple copies of the armor. Save the ones with potential 1 or 2, those might already be usable. Put the potential 0 copies aside for Nemesis re-rolling. When ready, run your Conqueror Tower maps and put each item through Nemesis, hoping for legendary potential upgrades. This is the second step in the overall process. Using it, you can reliably start obtaining legendary potential 1 versions of your target items. And if you're lucky enough to get a version with legendary potential 2, hold on to it. You'll likely want to use it, especially if you have a high quality exalted item to combine with it, like one with double tier 7 stats. Once you have something strong crafted, I'd say an armor with potential 2 and excellent affixes, there's not much more you can do with that base. Unless you go one step further, you now aim for a legendary potential 3 version of the item to maximize your in-game build. If you're aiming for legendary potential 3, luck alone isn't your only option. With the most recent patch, there's now a method that allows you to push items further using a special Woven Echo map called Farside Turtle. This map is designed specifically for upgrading legendary potential. You can take an item that already has legendary potential and throw it into this encounter. There's a small chance that the item's potential will increase by 1, or with a lot of luck, even by 2. However, the most common outcome is that the potential actually decreases by 1. That's the risk you take. It's a gamble. One that doesn't guarantee improvement, but with enough attempts, some items will improve. You'll want to collect a solid stockpile of items with legendary potential 1. These can come from Nemesis Encounters or the occasional lucky drop. Once you have a good number, run a Farside Turtle map, clear the enemies, and start feeding your items into the system. While many will lose potential, a few will rise, and those few can be game-changing. This marks the final phase of the process. At this point, you're not just hoping for any legendary item, you're refining your gear to perfection. With a high-quality exalted base and a legendary potential 3 unique, you're set up to craft some of the most powerful items in the game.